I don't think I've ever really gone over exactly how I get my slider shots and what product I'm using. Well, I want to take a quick minute and show you guys exactly what I'm using. So this is the Revolve Motorized slider kit. Pretty much can be used to adapt to your current slider that you already own, thus saving you a ton of dough. So the folks at Revolve were nice enough to hook me up with a good deal on this, and they actually threw in a couple extra add-ons. So the kit comes with a slider mounting hardware, which includes everything you need to do to set up your pulley, and you get a 6-foot timing belt, a bunch of tools for it, the motor controller, a standard 5 RPM motor, and a 6-foot extension cord. So the mounting hardware actually houses the motor itself by this bracket, and these are interchangeable. Now, what I mentioned earlier about Revolve sending me out a couple extra goodies was a couple extra different motors based on what your needs are. Now, once you loosen the Allen head screw, the motor actually pops out and you can pretty much replace it with any other motor that you have. Now, the one thing I do want to mention, the pulley on the end here actually needs to come off with a smaller Allen screw that comes with it, and you do need to put that on the other motor. It's fairly simple to do, and you just need to place it on the other motor, which looks exactly the same. Now, the control module is extremely simple and really isn't a whole lot. You just pretty much have your speed control that can go from slow to fast, and then on the top, you have going from left to right, and center being the off switch. Another nice feature of this unit is it does run on 4 AA batteries, and the cable coming out of that simply plugs into the side marked power, or you can get an adapter if you're a house and you want to save those batteries by plugging in the same adapter into the wall. Now, mounting this to your existing slider couldn't be any easier. In this instance, I am using a Canova slider, and you can go on either side depending on your preference on how you want to mount this, but for the most part, you're just going to use the existing plate that you have on the slider. You're going to take the lock nut that's going to drop into place, and the one thing that you want to be careful of is you give this a nice, good, tight turn, especially since you're most likely going to be adding a fluid head of some sort to be able to mount your camera on at the end of the day. Now, for me, any fluid head that I use, of course, is the Manfrotto 502, and of course, I do need to use the adapter to couple up to that. So you simply screw that onto the adapter itself, and then that will accept the Manfrotto 502. Now, I have a medium length slider here, and they give you a 6-foot belt to actually use. Now, I didn't cut any of this only for the simple fact that if I get a different slider, I don't want to necessarily cut myself off despite that. So I just leave it the same size. You simply loop it through the system here, and we'll get into how we're going to lock this down. Now, these are the brackets that you're actually going to use to mount to the slider, which actually runs the belts through. Now, I'll show you exactly how this works by the simple bolts that you have here. This particular bolt is what you're going to use to attach to your slider, and you can move that any direction based on your needs. And of course, this plate here is where you're going to run your belt through and actually lock it down to keep it tight. Now, the bracket itself for my Canova will mount directly on top. Now, based on your needs, it could be mounted on the side or even the front or back. Now, this L-shaped bracket will actually allow you to maneuver it any way that you want, again, based on your needs and how you want it to set up. So once you have that mounted, you can simply loosen up the screws, pull apart the plate, and this will actually allow you to feed the belt down that I showed you earlier. Once you pull it through taunt, you can go ahead and tighten it down, and then you're going to end up doing the same thing to the other side to where you're set up and it's nice and taut to where it's not going to skip or give you any issues when you're using the motor. All right, so pretty much once everything is taut and all ready to go, you're going to take your power cord. Now, keep in mind, I did get the 6-foot extension cord that comes along with this to hook it up to the box, so you don't have to keep it so close. So you simply take the plug that's on the back of the motor, put it into the extension portion there, and then you're going to run that to your control box. And again, this allows you to not necessarily have to stay close. Now, of course, once you plug that into the motor portion, like I mentioned earlier, you have the plug that can go in for the battery operation, or if you have the ability to plug it in the wall, you can use that. Now, like I mentioned earlier, the module is pretty straightforward. They do have an adapter here, which could allow you to mount it to the side of the fluid head, or pretty much to the tripod, wherever it is that you feel comfortable that you want to operate this from. But the operation of this is very straightforward. You simply push it to the left or to the right if you want the slider to move the way you want. You can speed it up, you can slow it down. Now keep in mind this is the fastest motor that is made for this. There's a couple other ones which I'll show you in a second. Now you can simply turn this as you're going, you can slow it down, you can speed it up, and you can pretty much do whatever it is that you're looking for the shot that you have. This is a very strong motor in my opinion. Even with the camera on it and different angles, it never let me down as far as being able to get the shot. Now, of course, if I was on an angle, I needed to speed it up a little bit if it was going up, and of course, slow it down if you're going down, because the natural weight of it, whatever way that you're going, is obviously going to be affected by that, and you need to make the proper adjustment. Now, the one thing that does bother me a little bit is this little pulley. Now, I could buy a separate one for each motor, but taking it off and putting it on just is a little bit cumbersome because you're already removing the motor itself, and it just makes it a little bit more difficult if you're on the go. Now, there's supposed to be a newer module coming out which gives you a lot more features. I hope that comes out soon, and I'll give that a try as soon as it hits. Guys, this kit itself goes for $399 on their website. And again, I think it's a great value for what you get, especially if you don't have to pick up a new slider, which can cost just as much, if not more. Now, you would need to check their website if you want to get a different speed motor for this. Those do cost about, I think, 20 to 30 bucks for that, but you'll have to check that out. I'll put the links down below for all of that. I want to thank the folks over at Revolve for giving me a good deal on this adder kit, as well as giving me the motors to review. I appreciate that. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to hit that thumbs up button. Your support's always appreciated. And if you want to support me even more, please feel free to subscribe. Other than that, again, thank you all for joining me. You all have a good one, and you'll see me in the next video.